Hello, you lovely ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mangs, and today I noticed a message pop up on my channel saying, "Congrats, your channel is 13 today, and aging beautifully. Many happy returns." And I thought to myself, wow, 13 years, that is a long time. And for this occasion, I figured I'd tell you guys a little story. The story of how I started out doing YouTube full-time. Maybe some of you guys who are dreaming of doing this yourself will find the story interesting. Or maybe you'll find it entertaining. So, I figured I'd tell the story today. And do forgive me if I ramble a little bit. I am telling the story from memory, and my memory is not always the best. But I do remember certain key points that led to me making the decision to go full-time with YouTube. So the game that we're seeing in the background here is Fire Emblem Fates, and that is no accident. This game is very much the reason I was able to start doing YouTube full-time, and I'm very grateful for this game as a result. But before I get into the story, I'd like to give a little bit of context, a little bit of background on me as a person. Going through life in my late teens / early 20s, I did not have a very good time. I was kind of sleepwalking through life. I hated school. I despised it with every fiber of my being. Every morning I woke up and I had to go to school, I was miserable. Not because I was bullied or anything like that. In fact, I had friends and, but I just hated the concept of it. I found it incredibly boring. I hated all the courses. I wasn't interested in anything there. And as a result, my grades were not great. I was able to get through school, but my grades severely limited what I was able to do with my life. Because, of course, in Norway, higher education is like a big thing. Everyone wants higher education here. But all the things that I was interested in, I was barred from entering because of my low grades. So the only way I would be able to start studying would be to go back and improve my grades, which, of course, was the last thing I wanted. I was so happy to be done with school, I never wanted to go back. So back in the day, I used to do a lot of, low skill, low wage work. I started out working in kindergartens. I did some, classic store jobs. I eventually got forklift certified and I started working at storehouses. And I also worked with disabled kids for many years. And while I enjoyed some of these jobs, I think, everyone who's worked minimum wage, they know how soul draining it is and how tiresome it is, Even though you may be happy with certain parts of your work, it never gets to a stage where you're like looking forward to going to work, right? So, but I kept on working because it was really the only thing that I could do. And I remember watching all my friends going to higher education. They started working on their bachelors. Some of them started on their masters. And I felt like all my friends were going places and I was kind of just stuck behind, Just, working my low-skill jobs, never amounting to much. My parents, who both were, academics, they were a little disappointed in me, to put it mildly, Like, well, when are you gonna, start taking your education? When are you gonna start doing something with your life? Every single time I came home for Christmas, that was the conversation around the table. And I felt like a loser. I'm not gonna lie. But then I started doing YouTube as a hobby. I started out with my FE6 Let's Play, which some of you may remember if you've been around for a while. And for the longest time, this was nothing but a hobby. I wasn't making any money off it, but I was slowly building up my channel. I remember I was very happy when I reached 1,000 subscribers for the first time. But I didn't really start making any money until many years into my channel. But eventually I was able to sign a contract with a partner. This was how you had to do it back in the day. And I was able to start making a little bit of money off my videos. Not much, but just a tiny bit. And then came the release of Fire Emblem Fates. And with Fire Emblem Fates, my channel started to really blow up. Because Fates was an immensely popular game on YouTube. And I remember checking my analytics, and I remember very specifically seeing $750 this month in ad revenue. And I thought to myself, wow, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. If I could double that, I might actually be able to quit my job. And then my PC died. My PC crashed, and I was not able to use it at all. And then I lost my job, and I had to move back to my parents for a summer because I couldn't pay rent. And I hit rock bottom. I felt like the biggest loser in the world. I was out walking late at night, staring up at the stars, wondering why I hadn't amounted to anything. All my friends, you know, some of them had finished their educations at this point. They've gotten cars, houses, some of them got married. And I was just left behind in the dust. I had nothing. I couldn't even do YouTube anymore because my PC was broken and I couldn't afford to buy a new one. And my parents were not happy about me coming home either. And it was rough. I remember just lying in bed, staring up into the ceiling, wondering, what did I do wrong? You know, why can't I do anything good with my life, you know? And then I just had a thought. What if somehow I can obtain a little bit of money, enough to buy a computer, move out, and if I do YouTube every single day, maybe I can double that ad revenue from 750 up to 1,500. And at that point, maybe I will have enough money to pay rent and live my life. And so I did something that I've never told my parents about, not even to this day. I don't think they watch my videos, so I don't think they'll ever figure this one out. I said yes to improving my grades, right? I said yes to improving my grades. When you are going to school in Norway, you can apply for a stipend, right? And the stipend will cover basics. You'll have to pay it back, of course. It's not like you get it for free, but it's a loan with no interest, basically. And what I said to my parents is that I would take 3 courses to improve my grades, but in actuality, I only signed up for 1. But I still applied for a full stipend. So I got more money than I needed, basically. For this money, I bought a computer on down payment, like one of those awful deals where you have to pay a little bit of money up front and then you have to pay every month. So I got a brand new computer, and the rest of the money I spent on a deposit to get out of my parents' house, and I moved to Oslo, the capital of Norway. And I got a tiny little apartment. This infamous picture of me that you've probably seen, this is taken from that apartment. This was a crappy little apartment with no space. The rent was $700 a month, which is very cheap for Oslo. Oslo is extremely expensive to live in, by the way. But I felt that somehow, if I could just live in the capital, at least I wouldn't be a loser. I don't know why I thought that. That was just like my rationale. Because many of my friends were living in Oslo as well. So I figured, you know, at least if I live in the capital, I am not a loser. And so, with the money from my stipend, and only taking 1 course instead of the 3 that I promised my parents, I got a computer, I was able to move out, and I was able to start up doing YouTube. Because here's the thing, my parents would have never let me do YouTube full-time living with them, because they thought it was a waste of time, they thought games were a waste of money, that it would never amount to anything, that it was better if I spent my time on education. But I never told them. I never told them what I was really doing. And I told myself, you know, I'm just going to do this for a year. I'm going to try doing it for a year. And if it doesn't work out, I will focus everything I have on higher education and try to get a real job. But I'm going to try this for a year. I'm going to go 100% full throttle on this YouTube thing. And I remember spending about 8 to 10 hours every day editing from my stupid, crappy little apartment in Oslo. And I was able to raise my ad revenue up to $1,500 a month. So that was enough to pay my rent of $700 and also get basic stuff like groceries. I was also able to get a gym membership, which at the time was very important to me. But there were times when I had so little money, I didn't know what to do with myself. I lived on eggs, tomato soup, and noodles. And during the weekend, sometimes I would travel home to my parents. I pretended like it was just to see them, but in actuality, I went there to get food from my mom, because she would always cook for me when I came home. So I was like, I just missed you guys, you know, so I just came home and say hello, but I was starving. So So it was rough. It was very rough. There were times when I would go to McDonald's just to grab the salt and pepper and ketchup there to bring home. No joke. Because I couldn't afford salt, pepper, and ketchup. It's insane to think about. I was living on $1,500 a month, minus $700 in rent. And I just remember I was counting every coin, just hoping that I would have enough for food and rent. It's the worst thing. Like, my nightmare was being kicked out of my apartments. I have to go home to my parents and explain how, yeah, I was actually doing YouTube all this time and I failed. I was hell-bent on succeeding. I had to succeed. And as a result, I spent probably 12 to 14 hours a day editing, recording content, uploading videos every single day, doing whatever I could to ensure that I did not come home a disappointment. And as my channel started growing over the time and you know, I started to slowly get more and more ad revenue, I started a Patreon. I was able to get to a point where I wasn't scrounging for scraps anymore. And ever since then, I've done this very actively. Sometimes I will, you know, do some work more for variety than anything else. But 13 years later, I'm still doing YouTube, and I am immensely grateful. But know that it started out very difficult, and that for the first few years of doing this full time, I had no idea where my next meal was coming from. But I believe that that period of my life also kind of built character in a way. Obviously, I still had a lot of problems. But it was a very valuable experience. Like, risking everything to try and do something. It's not something that I would advise everyone do. But I think for me at the time, it was the right choice. And it has led to very good things afterwards. So that's the story of how I started out doing full-time YouTube. I'm explaining this from memory, so, you know, it's not necessarily super coherent, but that's how it happened. And I hope that you guys found some value in it. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But here's to 13 years of YouTube, and maybe 13 more. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching, guys. My name is Mangs, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.